I'm honored to be invited to speak to you all, and nervous, of course. Honored to be in the company of a lot of heroes here. I'm not a hero. I'm just a person that signed up to serve our country, and when I was called, I went and did the best job I could. I was... I am representing female veterans. Female veterans represent 10 to 15% of veterans, depends on what source you look at, and I'm proud to say I'm one. I was asked to tell my story. So my story goes something like this. I was a nurse at 19 years old. I'm from southern Kentucky, and I started to work for the VA in Lexington, Kentucky as a nurse at the ripe age of 19. I enjoy taking care of veterans. One of the things that I enjoyed is I love talking to them. I love just seeing them, interacting with each other, telling their stories. Back in those days, we had wards. They don't have wards too much in hospitals anymore, but some of the wards were like, 16 beds in a ward, 8 beds and 4 beds, and it was neat to see them. I mean, they would be in the hospital and they would be sick, but if the person next to them needed a glass of water or whatever, there'd be somebody that would, get up and give it to them that helped each other. And that was neat. So I was young and, feisty little nurse, and there was recruiters coming to the hospital all the time saying, ma'am, you need to sign up, you need to go with us. And I brushed them off, and then finally one day there was this sergeant, a female, came and said, if you hurry up and sign on the line, we're going to Hawaii and you can go too. And I'm like, woohoo, where do I sign? So I signed and was commissioned as a second lieutenant at 32 years old. And so life was good, I went to all these military schools, moved up through the ranks a little bit, went to all kinds of places here in the States, went to Egypt, did all kinds of things, and as a nurse, I went in the nurse corps, obviously, and life was good. And my son, he ended up going into the Army. He was in Iraq as a combat engineer, a sergeant, and so we're a military family, and I can tell you from personal experience it was much easier to be there myself than to have my son there. As a parent, it's not fun. Anyway, life ticked along, and one day I'm at work at the VA, working with a bunch of surgeons, and I get this phone call, and I was a lieutenant colonel then. I'd been in 19 years, and they said, Colonel Griggs, would you like to volunteer to go to Iraq with civil affairs? And I'm like, no. I said, no, I think you have the wrong person. I said, I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for like 30 years. And I said, no, I'm not volunteering to go to Iraq with anybody. If they need me, they know where I live. And he goes, we have the right person. We know who you are. And he said, tell you what, your name is going to be put in a lottery, and you may be selected to go. I'm like, take my chances, all right. So anyway, life went on. The next day, I'm at work. Phone rang, and I answered it. Same guy. And I said, I suppose you're calling to say I won the lottery. And he says, as a matter of fact, I am. So he says, check your email in about 5 minutes, and your orders will be in there, and it will give you all of the specifics. So I'm like surrounded by surgeons who, they're a needy group of people, if you want to know. They're like all peering over me. Anyway, I pulled up my orders, and I looked, and my orders said that, I was been mobilized to go to Iraq with civil affairs for 542 days. And I remember seeing that and just being a little bit shocked. I'm like, 542 days, that's a really long time. And so I had like 2 weeks to get ready to go to Iraq. So I did. Anyway, my son, I didn't tell him, he was in Iraq. He was a combat engineer out and about all the time. They do he was doing route clearances, and he was attached to a 2nd Marine Division. So he was out there doing some, heavy-duty stuff. And anyway, I refused to tell him that I was going, so he called me, and said, I'm back in Germany. I made it home, and I said, I'm proud of you and all this kind of stuff. And then before I hung up, I said, I have some news. And he said, what is it? And I said, I have to report to Fort Bragg tomorrow, and I'm going with civil affairs. So he wasn't too happy about that, but, we did. Anyway, if you all have ever served with medical people, nurses and stuff in the Army, we're kind of casual, we're not really into all this military custom and stuff. We take care of sick people. That's what we're trained to do, sick and injured, and we really don't care whether you salute at us or not. We just, we're casual. And so anyway, I get ready and I go to Fort Bragg, home of the 82nd Airborne. And if you all have ever seen the movie Private Benjamin, I was Private Benjamin. It was like, you're in the Army now, gal. But, we buckled down. I reported in November, the 4th of November, and actually before I went, I had to Google civil affairs to figure out what they did. I mean, been in the Army and stuff. I focused on, the medical corps, the nursing corps. I didn't know what civil affairs did. So I Googled it to find out, and I'm like, ooh. Anyway, so I reported in November, and I stayed at Fort Bragg until in February, and then we trained as a civil affairs officer, and we mobilized to Iraq. It was during the surge. I went to Baghdad, and when I got there, the crazy part was I was in a medical unit all these years, trained with these soldiers, built relationships with these soldiers, and thought that I would, go to war with them. And I ended up going to, with people that I didn't know. Even at Fort Bragg, the time they're training, I trained with some people, and then right before you get ready to go, they reassign you, and they split us all up. So you end up going to war with, people that you didn't know at all, and you had to build relationships. So that was a little bit difficult. But anyway, when we got there, we worked at COR. I worked under General Odinero at COR in the civil affairs, planning out all the civil affairs missions for the country. And supposedly what they say is, winning the hearts and minds. Well, we were concerned about the economy and rebuilding the schools and rebuilding the roads and the electrical grids, all those kind of things. I was like way out of my element. I did nothing hardly related to medicine or to nursing. But when I got there, my boss said, I'm going to make you deputy chief of plans. So, you're planning out all of the missions for all the civil affairs. And I said, you know what? There's all kinds of like CA bubbas around here, and I'm just a nurse. Are you sure? And he said to me, nurses can do anything. I'm like, well, okay, here we go. Here we go. So anyway, I worked hard, worked very hard, probably harder than the CA bubbas because they kind of knew what they were doing and I didn't. So I had to like learn as I went. But we got the job done. I really, there was a lot of hard times, but there was a lot of enjoyable times there too. There used to be a saying, be all you can be in the military, and I firmly believe in that. But sometimes it was hard to be all you can be as a woman. One of the things, when I went, I was like 51, 52 years old. What happens to you 51, 52? Everybody said, how you doing with that menopause thing? Are you like having some hot flashes? And I'm like, you know what? It's just like one big long flash over here. You don't know if you're like flashing or not flashing. And, there was times where I said, maybe this would be a good idea if they deployed. We should have a whole unit of menopausal women because you just get like mean as a snake, and it's just like, bring him to me. I'll take care of him. Bring it on, no problem. But there were some hard things. I went out on missions a lot, and, when you went on a mission, well, it's not like you can call up these people and say, and make an appointment to see you at 10 o'clock on Tuesday. You can't do that. You just have to go out, and, sometimes you go just a little ways, and it doesn't take you too long, and other times you go a little ways, and it seems like it takes you forever, So it was hot over there, and, our uniform, our anatomy and stuff is just different than a man. And so it's not like, like going to the bathroom. It's not like you can just stop and pee on the side of the road, and, they don't have rest stops, or you can't run into a service station. So as a female, that was hard. You had to, before I went out, I remember you had to get really in tune with your body, and you just have to have little sips of water and just barely keep yourself from, dehydrated. Just sip at it and go, because you don't know when you're going to be able to use the bathroom again. And but you learn how to deal with it. But that was hard. The other thing there's a couple things that I wanted to point out that like men don't think about. Our uniforms, some smart person, they put buttons down your pants. They're all buttoned. There's no zippers there. Well, you're using the portalets all the time, and you got to go in. You got to take all this IBA off, and you got to, your pants are down. I remember one time being in the portalet, and it was incoming, and I'm saying, please God, don't let me die in the portalet. I'm like, so it takes you a while to use the bathroom. I mean, there's just like no fun in that. The other thing is this IBA. I mean, like I probably, with this IBA that you carried, I probably carried 50 pounds extra on your back. And, as a woman, you can carry a 30-pound kid around in your hip all day and no problem. But when you start putting that stuff on your back, it's really hard. It's hard on you. If you fell down, I don't know. I can't get up. I fell down. I can't get up. That's saying. So it was good. I came back and rejoined the medical unit and reconnected with people that I had served with for many years. Went back to my job as the VA. So ultimately, I retired from the VA as a nurse for 40 years, and I retired from the reserves with 28 years. It was a great experience. I learned a lot. I think I'm a better person for having done this. I'm very proud that I was able to contribute. Thank you.
All right, let's open up for questions.
Yes.
As a person involved, is it civil affairs?
Yes.
You obviously dealt with the people, the men.
I dealt with locals, yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
How were they to you?
Well, it was interesting. It was hard in the beginning. Their culture is they usually don't deal with women. And, they don't have a lot of respect. I was the highest ranking individual that went out, on some of these missions. We would be tasked with certain things. And,
So that's great.
yeah. And, you listen to the people that's with you, because some of them have been there before. Some of them, they've been around the block a time or two. The enlisted people, they get you there, they keep you safe, and, you need to listen to them. But, so they would, the local sheik or the leader or sometimes didn't want to really talk to me and want to talk to the sergeant. And we had an interpreter with us all the time, and so you would have to say, he works for me. I'm making this decision, so you either talk to me or, we're out of here. See you, buddy. And, we went carrying bags of money. Because it's not like you can, write them a check. You can't give them a credit card. Couldn't go to the ATM. So we went with bags of money, and they knew that if they wanted what you were probably going to give them, they had to deal with me. Didn't like it too much sometimes, but they did. They learned. They're not stupid. Yes.
How long was your tour?
I was there. I was gone from home for 18 months, but I was in Iraq for a year. They kept me those 542 days to the money. Yeah. Yeah, I thought I'm never going to get home. I was home for 24 hours from Fort Bragg. We had one, my husband came down to see me once a month until I left. But we had one episode where we could go home. They kind of told us at the last minute. And a lot of the troops there, we were there. This was during the surge, and so they had run out of civil affairs officers at civil affairs personnel really, because they deployed and deployed and deployed. And so they we're like, okay, we're going to take some of these medical people, and we had engineers, we had a lot of different people, but so they made up a civil affairs group, and there was people there from all over, and they kind of told us, like on Friday, we've decided you can go home Saturday morning, but you had to be back at Sunday night. So I was home for like 24 hours during that time, and it was really weird. You come back. I live in Westchester, and it's kind of it was kind of growing area up there, and you come back and you're just like, was that there when I left? And you have a moment. I'm probably no different than anybody else, but there's a moment of where it's kind of shocking, really, to come back and see everything. But again, yes.
Did you deal with a lot of Vietnam veterans that lectured in VA hospital?
Yes. I mean, I've worked in the VA. I started working in the VA 1975. So yeah, I've took care. Actually, when I first became a nurse, one of my first patients was a Spanish American war veteran. Believe it or not, he was 102 years old when I took care of him, and I was a nurse. I was his nurse probably for 2 years before he died. Took care of him all the time. And so, yeah, I've run the gamut and I just retired 2 years ago from the VA. So I spent 40 years working for them. Yeah.
Well, what are they doing now for the Iraqi and Afghanistan veterans?
Well, they have.
Post-traumatic stress.
Pardon?
A lot of them got post-traumatic.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
And they've got a lot of suicides now.
Yes, they do. Yeah. 22 a day is, whatever. It's sad. Well, there is a lot of programs at the VA that, help veterans. At the Cincinnati VA, for example, we have it's called OEF, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom Clinic. And so it's staffed with, that's all they do, is take care of soldiers that are returning, and they assess them, evaluate them, and then plug them into programs that they need help with. So they do a lot. There's a lot of good done, but there's still a lot of needy soldiers. My son just got off of active duty not too long ago. He has some PTSD issues. I experienced the healthcare system in the military firsthand. I was with him quite a bit at Fort Bliss, Texas, and so it's difficult sometimes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
Did you ever use your nursing or medical skills while you were over there? Did they ever come in handy?
Well, no, not really. The only thing is I was just one of, there was not very many women at all. And so I was like mother to the herd. But they all knew I was a nurse, and we actually fixed a medic bag that I kept near me. And when anything would happen, they would run to me, or just come to you. Well, I'm feeling this way or I'm feeling that way, and there wasn't a lot I could do other than I gave a lot of Motrin out. That was my own. We called it Ranger candy. So I passed out a lot of Ranger candy and Band-Aids and just taking care of like skin rashes and minor stuff like that. But I would just assess what was going on and talk to them. And there was a lot of times where I would take them personally over to the troop medical clinic and say, you need to be seen and you need more than I can offer you. So come on, let's go. And so I did that. There wasn't a lot as far as civil affairs stuff that I got involved in. Only a couple of things we did, which was kind of fun. I got to go out on they're called med rights, to where the military would invite the civilians to come in. Usually it was right next to the wire. It was, most of the time, not on base at all, but it would be a little area that was secured off right next to the wire. And we would do like a well baby clinic where they could bring in young babies, and we would have people there to assess the babies and make sure they're okay. Or we would give like vitamins and stuff to pregnant women. I went out with a dental group one time where we passed out toothbrushes and toothpaste and stuff like that, because everybody was sending all this stuff to us, and candy mainly, and we were, keeping it in boxes. We'd go pass it out and to them, and we were messing up their teeth, so we had to end up doing some dental missions to teach them how to take care of their oral hygiene a little bit better. Yeah. Any other questions? Are we good? Thank you so much. Another one? Yes.
Did you have to dress differently when you went out and talked to the village?
No, I wore a uniform. You had two uniforms. We had our ACUs, that you wear, and a PT uniform, and that was all you took. When I did go, I was one of the ones that did have R&R halfway through, and so I had to go by. I didn't come home. I went to Kuwait International Airport and then flew from there. I met my husband in Barcelona, and so I had to go buy some civilian clothes because you don't go to war with civilian clothes. So I wore my PT clothes until I could go shopping. But no, I was a soldier. They either dealt with me as a soldier, or no, I didn't have to dress up, cover my head or anything. No.
Did you experience? Were you in any areas where you got mortared?
I got mortared. I said we got mortared 3 times a day, whether we need it or not. Yeah, and and it's mortared a lot at night because I was there during the surge, and so what had happened is they were running all these bad guys out of Baghdad, and so they were fleeing, and they had all these stockpiles of mortars, and they had IEDs and all kinds of stuff like that, and they couldn't take it with them, so they just shot it off at you. Most of the time, I was on a big base. Most of the time, you heard incoming, and you had to, get down, kiss the ground, or get in a bunker or something like that. Most of the time, they weren't too accurate with them, but, they got a little bit better before we left. And there was some damage and close calls, but we got mortared a lot.
When you came home, did you ever hit the deck when you heard the loud noise?
Yeah, I did. Actually, I was only home about 2 weeks, and my husband and I'm from southern Kentucky, like Pulaski County, Macquarie County down in there, and we went down to visit, and we were at the stoplight, and there was this like older pickup truck sitting beside of us, and the stoplight turned green, and he mashed on the gas, and boom, it backfired, and just out of instinct, my husband was driving, my hands are in his hair, and I'm shoving him to the floor, and I'm going down too, so it's just automatic. And I worked at the VA, and they have the fire alarms there, and they test the fire alarms every day at about noon. And that was always a problem for me. I had to always because it's the warning for the fire alarm sounded just like the warning for incoming over there. It would come and it would be like bing, 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 and then they'd make an announcement, incoming, incoming. And suppose you had 10 seconds to get down or, get to a bunker. But the VA fire alarms were like the same thing. You had that first little initial bing, 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 and then, it would announce that they were testing the fire alarm system. But, I was lucky that I was able to hold composure. I actually talked to a lot of the people that I worked with, and I said, if I ever shove you down to the floor when this happens, you're going to have to forgive me because it was just instinct. That's what you do over there. That's what saved lives, was getting low. So when the shrapnel, when they explode, they hit something, the shrapnel usually goes up and out like in a triangle fashion, so you get down and it's less likely to hit you. Any other questions? Thank you very much.